Hello, students. Diversity in living organisms. This is a new chapter we are going to start today. We'll be going through the journey where you will come to know about the different types of organisms which exist on the earth, the first organisms which appeared on the earth, the simplest ones, and how slowly it developed into more complicated organisms. And we have the most complicated organisms on the earth, that is the mammals. And in mammals, the human beings like you and me, we are at the tip of the evolution. So it's a very interesting chapter. So let us start with the chapter now. Okay. You might have gone to a grocery store, isn't it? So when you go to buy things, you have seen the things are very nicely stacked there, very properly classified. It's easy to get the things you want. But suppose when you went there and you saw that the grocery store is in this condition, full messy, you will not be able to get any of your things you require. Similarly, suppose you go to a library. In a good library, the books are very nicely stacked and kept in proper cupboards. Cupboards would be labeled. So it's easy to find the book you want, whether it's fiction, non-fiction, or the new arrivals, etc. Isn't it? Suppose the library was in this condition, then you won't be able to find the book, isn't it? So you need to classify and stack things properly, group them properly. So that is what is called classification. How do you define classification? It's a grouping of objects based on certain similarities. The same thing is applicable to the organisms also. You need to classify organisms based on certain similarities. Actually, this is a separate branch of science and it is called as taxonomy. Fine? The question is, how do you classify organisms? You told that it is based on certain similarities, right? Now, what similarities? How are we going to find out the similarities? Now, let us see, take one example here, children. You see this slide here, it is showing a group of children standing for the assembly. You can see the girls are on one side and the boys are on the other side, isn't it? That is, you have grouped the children based on the gender, girls and boys. Now, for the same set of students, if they are classified based on the houses, we get four groups. You have yellow, green, red, and blue houses. You can group them based on the house. You can also group the students based on their marks, isn't it? So you have taken different criteria for classifying. The first criteria you took, it is based on gender. Then you classified them based on the criteria of the house. Then it was the marks. So the same thing is applicable in organisms also. On based on which criteria or which similarity are you going to classify, isn't it? So this branch of classification of organisms is called taxonomy. Every time whenever a new invention or some discovery is made, there will be so many scientists who have worked for it. You'll have a history behind it. Here also in classification, you have a history of classification. There were so many scientists who have worked for it. So the first scientist who worked for this classification is Aristotle. Aristotle classified the organisms based on, he classified them as plants and animals. That is based on whether they can photosynthesize or not. And plants itself, he again subdivided into herbs, shrubs, and trees. That was based on the kind of stem. Okay. Animals were again classified into air dwellers, land dwellers, and water dwellers. Fine. But then Aristotle's classification was then modified by the scientist Carolus Linnaeus. He is actually called the father of classification or father of taxonomy. Why is it so? I'll tell you. Okay, he also agreed that we can classify the organisms based on it is classified the organisms as Plantae and Animalia, but he subdivided them again. That is, kingdom Plantae was subdivided again, and he brought about these levels of classification. That is division, class, order, family, genus, and species. Similarly, he also classified Animalia, kingdom Animalia into different phylum, then class, order, family, genus, and species. And this is followed and accepted even today. That is why he is called as the father of taxonomy. Fine. Then the scientist Ernest Haeckel, he actually proposed a new kingdom, and that is the Protista. Protista, you can see in examples of protistans, that is Euglena, amoeba. Can you see this is Euglena, amoeba? Then you have the paramecium. Okay, these are all unicellular organisms, but they do have a nucleus. So they are eukaryotes, but unicellular. So unicellular eukaryotes were placed under a new kingdom, Protista. Okay, then the scientist Copeland, he proposed a new kingdom, Kingdom Monera. Kingdom Monera is made up is having organisms which do not have their own nucleus, which do not have membrane bound nucleus. Actually, they are called as prokaryotes, isn't it? Prokaryotes are the organisms which do not have a membrane bound nucleus or membrane bound organelles, and these were the organisms which originated on the earth for the first time: bacteria, mycoplasma, etc. So kingdom Monera was there. Now we have 4 kingdoms. Then came the next and the final classification, which was done by Robert Whittaker. He proposed one new kingdom, that is kingdom fungi, mycota. Okay, so he, according to Robert Whittaker, we can classify organisms into 5 kingdoms: Monera, Protista, fungi, plantae, and animalia. And this 5 kingdom classification is accepted even today, where he says that the first organisms are originated by the monerans, later on evolved as protists, and then we have the fungi, plantae, and animalia. So the 5 kingdom classification proposed by Robert Whittaker. Okay, now how did he classify it? On what basis did he divide them? We were talking about the criteria, isn't it? So it was based on 4 criteria, that is the cellular structure, cellular organization, whether unicellular or not, source of nutrition, autotrophic or heterotrophic, and the final one is a phylogenic. That is, phylogeny means evolutionary history of a species. To make this more clear, I'll show you this flow chart, children. Okay, see this. This is a group of living, the complete group of living organisms which are existing on the earth. Now, what did Robert Whittaker do? He separated out organisms which do not have a nucleus. Okay, and he named it as Kingdom Monera. So these are the organisms which do not have any nucleus, and then all the remaining groups which have a nucleus, they are the eukaryotes. Now the eukaryotes are already having a nucleus, but we have to subdivide it. So the second level of classification was based on the number of cells. So the unicellular eukaryotes come under Kingdom Protista. You see the examples here. We have already seen that examples, the protozoa, the diatoms, the unicellular algae. This all in detail we'll be learning it in the next video. But the second level of classification are the unicellular eukaryotes. Then what about the other set of organisms, multicellular organisms? They again have to get divided. So those which have cell wall and which do not. And we all know organisms which don't have cell wall come under Kingdom Animalia. This was the third level of classification. Now coming for the fourth level, at the final level of classification, is a mode of nutrition. Can photosynthesize or not. Kingdom Fungi and Kingdom Plantae, both of them have a cell wall, but fungi cannot photosynthesize and Plantae can photosynthesize, so they will come under different kingdoms. So this was a 5 kingdom classification. You can see this, the first level of classification was based on the presence or absence of nucleus. The second level of classification is based on the number of cells. The third level based on the presence or absence of cell wall. And the fourth one is based on the type of nutrition, can photosynthesize or not. Okay. This scientist Carl Woese, what he did, he further classified Kingdom Monera into Archaebacteria and Eubacteria. Eubacteria are the true bacteria which we are talking about. But Archaebacteria are special bacteria. These are the bacteria which can survive under extreme conditions of heat and salinity. That is why they are called Archaebacteria. These were the bacteria which originated first on the earth when the earth was still a burning ball of gases. After that, eubacteria came, and then it evolved into Protista and so on. So kingdom Monera is subdivided into Archaebacteria and eubacteria. Okay. Now, why is there a need to classify organisms? You can see from this picture, you see the answer is there in this picture. See the diverse type of organisms on the earth. Don't you think we have to classify them? Otherwise, we won't be able to study about them at all. When you group them, for example, if you study about the characteristics of a bird, one bird, you know that it is common for all the birds. You study about the characteristics of a fish, you know the common characteristics of aquatic organisms, isn't it? So it is making us study about that all the organisms easier. So let us actually see why do we need to classify organisms. Importance. It makes the study of wide variety of organisms easy. It projects before us a good picture of all life forms at a glance. Don't you think when we did that five kingdom classification, you understood the little bit idea you got ki what type of organisms are there, how many varieties are there. You get an idea at a glance. Okay, it helps us to understand the interrelationship between different groups of organisms. If you study about, for example, dinosaurs, it is showing the characteristics of both reptiles and birds. So it is actually connecting link. It is showing that the birds and reptiles are very closely related. So it is helping us to find the evolutionary relationship, interrelationship, etc. It serves as a base for the development of biological sciences. When you study about the classification, you may be very interested to study more about plants. Then in higher study, you can go for botany. You can study about plants in botany. You can take up microbiology if you are interested in microorganisms. If you want to learn more about zoology, animals, you can take up zoology and so on. Okay, evolution and classification. Is it related? You have always heard these two words, but are they related? Let us see whether they are related or not. Say this bacteria, the most simplest of organisms, followed by Protista, fungi, plants, and animalia. Okay. Now, if you see this bacteria here, they are having the most simplest body design. Fine. And they are the most oldest primitive organisms on the earth. And what about kingdom Animalia with most complex body design like we all have? And we are younger and advanced. Why are we called younger and advanced? Because we have developed recently. If you compare our body and the body of the bacteria, in the bacteria there is no division of labor. Everything, all the life processes are happening in that single cell. But what about our body? We have very complicated, very efficient organ systems. Division of labor is there. We have a complex body design, so we are more advanced than them. Okay, so this simple to complex, you can see how it is moving, how the organisms have developed from simple to complex. This is called as evolution. Okay, so evolution is related to classification. Yes, it is related, because in the classification itself you can find that there is a gradual developing of body design. There's a gradual developing of body design from simple to complex, and that is helping the organism to survive better, and which is very evident in the classification of Robert Whittaker. You saw that in kingdom Monera, the simplest organisms were there, and then slowly body design developed to form unicellular eukaryotes in Protista. Then you have the fungi, then plantae, and the most advanced complicated organisms are the animalia. So of course, classification and evolution is definitely related. Now let us have some review questions. Let us see how much you have learned about this introduction part of this lesson. Okay. What is the first level of classification based on? Answer: presence or absence of nucleus. Okay. What is the second level of classification based on? Just recall what is the answer. First level we know it is presence or absence of nucleus. Second level is of course number of cells, unicellular or multicellular. Okay. Third question. What is the third and fourth level of classification based on? Again, coming to the first level, no nucleus and nucleus present. Second level, presence or absence of, second level is based on the number of cells. Third level of classification is presence or absence of cell wall. Okay, and the fourth level is based on whether they can photosynthesize or not. So that's the answer. Okay. What is the advantage of classifying organisms? We have the four important points there. Making the study of organisms easy. It projects before us a good picture of all life forms at a glance. It helps us to understand the interrelationship between the different groups of organisms. And of course, the last and the final one, it is making a base for the study of other branches of science. Okay. Which organisms are called primitive and how are they different from the so-called advanced organisms? This is there in your textbook. Very often asked question. Which is a primitive organism? It is a Monera. Kingdom Monera are the most primitive organisms and they have a very simple body design. Whereas advanced organisms, they have complex body design with division of labor. And since they have developed recently, they are called younger organisms. What is the criteria for classification of organisms belonging to kingdom Monera or Protista? That is the first level of classification. It is presence or absence of nucleus. This is also your textual question. In the hierarchy of classification, which grouping will have the smallest number of organisms with maximum common characteristics and which will have the largest number of organisms? You know, always the basic, that is a basic group, that is from where it has developed, that will have the most common characteristic, and Monera is the most common. So Monerans will have the most common characters. For example, if we take bacteria and ourselves, bacteria cell, they have ribosomes, we too have ribosomes. They have a cytoplasm, we too have. Okay, so the organisms belonging to kingdom Monera will have the smallest number of organisms and maximum characteristics in common. But maximum number of organisms will be present in kingdom Animalia. So when you learn about kingdom Animalia, you will understand it's a biggest group, and so it is divided into 10 phyla. You have so much to learn in that. Okay. That's all. I hope you have understood the introduction part of the lesson, children. So in the next video, we'll be learning each group in detail. Okay. Bye.